If you've been following me on Dr. Madhu Uncut, you would know that I speak to young, dynamic women. And in my last season, I spoke to brilliant entrepreneurs, young girls who have battled their way, adversities, gender bias, you name it, and they've gone through it and they have set up excellent businesses. These ladies should be inspiring you, should be motivating you that who says she can't? A girl, if she sets her mind to it, can do anything you want. And this season, I'm probably inviting people, young girls again, young ladies, whose brains I'm going to pick. I want to look inside the head. What makes them tick? What makes that clock churn? Because this season, I'm going to be interviewing or talking to authors, new and old, journalists, career builders, and many more such ladies who have moved out of their comfort zone and created a life that is out of the ordinary, but have normalized it. Today we have a very, very smart, very intelligent, very soft, very gentle, and a beautiful girl. Although beautiful is not beautiful like skin deep beautiful, she's a beautiful soul. She is a practicing dental surgeon. Why? Did a dental surgeon who is doing cut, pull out, extract, thoka thaki. Why did she suddenly change into something else? Completely, two very distinct, and I hope she makes it a career as an author. Today we have with us Nitika Modi, as I said, a lovely soul.
Such kind words. Thank you.
Nitika, yes, it's always, it bothers me. Clinician who's so in the today goes into an abstract. And you have done research on a subject that many people know very sketchy about, and it's neither fact, it's neither fiction. You amalgamated the two, have had the good fortune of reading two of your drafts and the original final. I think it's scary true. You're brilliant.
Thank you.
Can you tell me what happened? How did this journey start? And where is it heading? Journey as an author.
So, thank you for all your kind words. And Doc, you're a doctor. You're a mother. You're a woman. So you know that creativity is the fulcrum of all existence.
Ooh. Yeah,
And
right.
creativity is what inspires and guides us. Now, most of us, each one of us, you're a brilliant dancer. That each one of us has something within us that is just waiting to, speak out itself in a creative format. The closest I have ever felt to a higher being is when I'm writing. And I think this is what most artists really live for, not the final product that they turn out, but the journey where they come so close to facing love and warmth, which is only from a higher consciousness. So when you tap into that creative part in your life, you'll be guided, you'll be handheld by a force that is beyond your comprehension. And I was always someone who wrote. In fact, as a child, I always got the highest marks in English in school. My essays were read out in class, and I was a storyteller. I loved listening to my grandparents who would tell me stories and where I was the central character. So storytelling was something I inherited probably from my grandfather and grandmother, who my grandfather told me stories about me, which were adventure, where I was the center. But my grandmother put in all the, our two great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, ki ek choti kahani. She ingrained it into all us grandchildren. And we read a lot. So when you read, you just, I would always say my best friend is a book. Because when you read, you are just out there. You may be sitting in your little room in the middle of a buzzing suburb of Mumbai, but you're out there in the world. So it just allows your imagination to just, today I think this is the problem that we're facing, that we're so busy on our phones, we're so busy with our lives, we're busy doing so much that we don't have time to just have a calm, peaceful, quiet mind.
With this introduction, Nitika, that you brought Adhyatma, which means you're a brand new best-selling author. I think claps to that. And it's your first book, and the book has done very well. I would ask you about the book a little later. Tell me, you have a very busy practice. You have a very busy social life. So where did you find time to write such a moda book?
So, Doc, you're seeing this external side of me after the book has released, where the social life is there. So writing is a very, very internal process. So at that time when I was writing the book, it took me 10 years to write and another 2 years to be published.
10 years to write. What,
Yeah,
were you doing R&D on it?
Yeah, of course. Because I was writing on God. And when you're writing on a Hindu God, you can't write, loosely. You can't just write. You have to make sure you've done your research. At the same time, I was also growing up 2 boys and I had a full practice clinic. So I had 3 kids, a clinic and 2 boys. So whatever little time I would get in the morning hours, that's what getting up in the morning, working, planning your time well, discipline in time is what made me, travel that journey where I didn't know whether this book will ever see the face of, if anybody else will read it. And then it did become a joke in the house. Like the boys were forever like, okay, mom, you started writing when we were in school. Now we finished 10th. Then the older one's like, mom, I'm graduated now. Will your book ever graduate? So then it became ki nahi, ab just for this sake, I have to get it out there. I have to get it published. But it's been the most beautiful journey that I've undertaken. And I don't think it's impossible to have 2 very drastic, different careers blend in very beautifully.
So you say your book you've written about God, Anadi Anant. No form, no feature, no body, no picture. How do you even, where did you pull out something from thin air to write about a subject that no one has seen, heard, spoken to? Anadi Anant jaise bolte hain. How did you do that? What is your book about? Tell me about your book. Now you've piqued my curiosity.
So Antim, the last avatar, is on the final Vishnu avatar, the 10th Vishnu avatar, Kalki. And it's based in Kali Yuga. When I started writing this book, I did not know. I just had the story within me which was aching to be told. I just started writing. I had no idea what direction it will take. It was, see, when you're creating something, you do not know what the end product is. You have an intent. You have an intent to tell your story. You have an intent to be as pure or truthful to your inner voice. And you want to just say. But the great thing, like I was mentioning earlier about creativity, is that when you just let yourself be and you allow an higher force to work with you, then you're actually collaborating with God to write God's story. At points I felt when I would write early mornings at the Brahma Muhurat hours that I was just like Kana's flute. I was just that instrument, or वो कहानी खुद लिख रहे थे through me. Like, because the next evening when I would read it, I was like, Tish, did I write this? It doesn't seem so. And there have been days that I was writing for 10 days and I'd go back on it and I was like, no, this doesn't work. And I would just tear up the pages. So there are creative periods where you're guided, where you're handheld. And then there are periods where you're your worst critic and you say, no, this isn't. So it's just, that's what took that time. And of course, a lot of research, not much was spoken about the Kalki avatar. But in our Granths, we do have 2 lines which says that he'll be born in Shambhala, he'll be born during Kali Yuga, and the names of his parents. So I borrowed from that and then just wrote my story, which some way I feel was guided.
So did you, when you were doing your R&D, did you research for the facts of the grunts like you talk or the ways that you speak about? And did you create a fiction out of those facts, or did you borrow?
Yeah, so you always find what you go looking for in life. And that's what started opening up. I believe that everything in life is about energy, frequency, and vibrations. And the minute we begin to internalize, look within ourselves, all the answers lie within us, in our subconscious mind. It's just that if we're ever asking for an answer and we can't find it anywhere else, it's lodged there in your subconscious mind.
When you say look within, so when you did that procedure of looking within, did you find an author there or a storyteller there?
I just found a very intense light wanting to now speak out. So I don't know whether I also paint.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do a lot of Radha Krishna paintings. I like to create with my fingers. So whether I'm creating a smile, writing a book, or painting Krishna's face, I like baking. I like cooking. So it's finger skills that I think I have probably gathered over lifetimes. Whatever, it's a blessing to have. And storytelling is ingrained in all of us. All of us tell stories, so many stories to ourselves, to others at every point in our life. Yeah.
You said something that, at that time it really seemed like so anti what you're saying now. You said storytellers are liars.
So there has in fact been a lot of research that pathological liars and storytellers have a lot of common ground.
Wherever.
This is research fact because, and I don't necessarily agree to this fact, but it's just that cooking up stories, and look at the world we are living in today. Look at social media, what drives it. We're telling stories every minute, and then we get so caught up in our own stories that we actually begin to believe it. If you hear something by the 100th time, even if it's a lie, you will begin to believe it as the truth. But here's the thing, that truth can walk naked and it will come out one day. It's only the lies that need to be kept fed. So if you're writing something with a true heart and you're writing it with the right intent, you'll probably create something in life that would make that come true. I don't know if you're understanding what
it's a little complicated, but what my next question was, if you're trying to tell me that all the lies that you've created in your book, I should believe them. So does that make me not a very smart person?
No, it's not whether you should believe them. I should believe what I read.
That authors cannot be liars, especially if they've done 10 years of R&D, made a story from based on facts, and then, like you use the word, cooked the story. It cannot be lies.
Not at all.
You just added frill and frocks to it.
This is a great statement, that somebody is researching on and talking. But no, I feel authors are just the highest form of creativity that you can get, and depends. There's so much out there that one can write about, different genres and different. Like, we see if a president of a country with the kind of schedule he follows can write a book, if a famous daughter like yours, who's such a brilliant actress and doing so many other things, giving back to society, being an ambassador to so many great causes, finds time to write. Why do we always doubt that doctors cannot write?
Now that you mentioned my daughter, I would say she wrote facts. I will not call her a liar.
So that's what I said, that there are lots of people.
We need to say that I object to that word liar.
Absolutely.
I have high regard for authors and I love reading books. I would hate to say bloody it's all lies in here. So please.
Yeah, I won't say. No, but I've read this and I'm asked this very.
Someone else made this quote, not you.
No, never, not me.
Okay.
It's a research project going on right now and they found these things. So I would never say this because of all the things that I've done in my life besides raising two great kids. This is the third thing I'm most proud about, writing Antim.
So it's called Antim. It's about Kalki. And which are the epics that you researched on to build your story about Kalki? I know there was I have read that a new avatar would be coming named Kalki. So you have picked up that big strong fact and gave Kalki form and feature and a life. So which are the books that you referred to during your
It was, I actually was fortunate that, the minute I started this whole process, which for me initially was a very cathartic process because I was dealing with some pain. Now, if you ask authors, most of them will say that they got pen to paper at the highest point of their pain. But then I realized that the more I wrote, the more I was getting some form of healing in writing. And we borrow from our life so closely when we write in some form or the other from people. I just love going out and observing people, just quietly sitting and observing. You find a character, you find a nuance in a person which you can incorporate into your characters. So when you start writing and you have the right intent, the right things fall into place. Started a course with the Chinmaya, a Vedant course, which dwells deep into the Upanishads. So that's why it took so long, because while I was writing, I was becoming a spiritual seeker, reading more and more books. So I wouldn't say it was this one book or these 10, 15 books. There's so much of information out there. The more you know that the less you know. You dive deep, and our sages up there in the Himalayas and our Ved Vyas. The interesting thing about my book is that it's got the 8 immortals. Now, we all know about their place 4,000 years back in the Mahabharata and their place 8,000, or like I believe that the Mahabharata and Krishna happened 7,000 years back. And the Ramayana happened 14,000 years back. And the Vedas were written 21,000 years back. This is what I believe from everything that I've read or researched. So, if at that point those guys had their significance and they had their roles to play, that is well written about. But we also know that these 7 immortals exist amongst us. So, how would they be there today? In what form, what shape, what dress, what language would they speak? वो लोग उस जमाने की अवधि तो हनुमान नहीं बोलेंगे. हनुमान चालीसा उसमें लिखा हुआ है. तो if Hanuman comes in front of me today, how would I envision him? How would he be? So I began to write on that philosophy. So while we carry their backstories of each immortal, we've put them very relevant to today's time and age. And what would they be doing today? Each 8 of them have their own role in the life of Kalki, the final Vishnu avatar, and that's why they've lived since the last thousands of years just to aid Kalki in his final deliverance of this universe.
So would you draw a simile of these 8 immortals and Kalki to us as humans? Are they features that are inside us? Are they characteristics that we have? Are they the powers that we have as human beings? Like somebody told me that everything in our epics is not just storytelling. It's something related directly to your body, to your psyche, to your physique.
Absolutely.
And to everything. And the end result is what's happening to you is what happens to your protagonist, Kalki.
Our epics are so relevant. That time they're so relevant today because every little paragraph has a moral value attached to it, has a value system attached, has a lesson to learn. So today when I'm writing this, I wanted to blend in modern day, how we live today. Why can we not blend technology, modern day today, and the lessons from our epics? And that's what formed the story, because when I was, very often when you're an author, people ask you, what is the age group you're writing for? What is the genre you're writing for? And I was like, I'm writing for myself first, right? What I believe in. Then I don't know, whoever picks it up. I've never written keeping a genre in mind. But having said that, I've been touring with the book around India. And it's the IITians who are really picking it up, because somewhere the value system of India is getting lost today as we grow and we look into technology. The kids are losing their anchorage to our roots.
Right.
And this is what
Beautifully put.
and this is what Antim is trying to do, is tell a age-old story wrapped in a new paper, but in a new style, in a new format, keeping the same values and integrity intact.
I remember when we were young, we used to read those Vikram Vetal stories, Chanda Mama stories. All those little big stories had a moral of the story at the end of it. So the story was not just story, it was something that you wanted to emulate and follow and, feel good about yourself. So does your book do that?
So, Sanatan Dharma, as it is, says that we never judge anybody. We don't want to change anybody. We want to change the bad in each person. Each one of us has the good part and the bad part. We're a great combination. So it's a universe which lives in its duality. We can appreciate day only because there's darkness.
Yeah.
And there's good only because there's evil. So it comes in duality, everything, the yin and yang concept. And each one of us has that within ourselves. So it's about awakening the inner goodness within each of us is what this book is about. Each one of us is in conflict within our own selves first. And our external environment is a manifestation of our inner environment. So if we begin to work on our inner environment, automatically our external environment will begin to change. And that's what the society and the world as a large needs, that we don't need to go and change the world. First, we all need to go and change ourselves, and the world will gradually but surely change in that way. There's this lovely thing that Ram and Ravan have the same beginning, Ram. It's what they continue. Ra, they come together till there, and then it becomes more Ram and Ravan. So there's a difference. It's the paths that we take. And for that, we have to look at what guidance, the kind of people we are living, Saugat, Sangati. All these things are spoken of. So very often I'm asked, oh, spiritual book. It's not. It's actually a very realistic today's day and age book, borrowing from spiritual concepts, which is very easy to read, understand, and put into practice.
So did you inherit this spirituality from your conversation? I feel you are a very deep person with faith and beliefs, and I think blind trust in spirituality. So did it come down as a legacy from your family, or do you have a spiritual guru who talks to you and guides you and gives you all this infinite knowledge, which even if I read books, I won't get this depth? You may have been either born a special person, or you inherited it in the genes from your family, or do you have somebody who's actually, you have put your head down on his feet and say?
I think it's a combination of all these things. You never go searching for a guru. When you are ready, your guru arrives.
What?
Yeah. You can never go searching that, okay, it's time, I want a guru in my life, and your guru will appear. Never. When you're ready, the guru will arrive. So the initial work you have to do by yourself. And when you're the right vessel, when you've understood, I think the biggest thing is to let go of the ego. The minute the ego is gone, you're a vessel which is ready to take in. And that's when the guru will come and pour himself into that empty vessel. Till the time you're filled up with your arrogance, ego, nothing comes in. There's no space.
You seem so detached when you speak about your spirituality, as if nothing can touch you, hurt you because of your faith. Do you have any regrets in life?
Of course, we all.
Well, not everybody, but yeah, do you have regrets? So what is how did you overcome that?
By writing.
Writing. So that's your catharsis.
Yeah, see, it's so beautiful that when you write, you can do in your book with your characters what you can't do with your own life.
Real life.
Suddenly you feel in charge and in control. And today you want to change that spark for that particular character in your book, you can. But while doing that, you suddenly, doc, writing is, I keep using the word cathartic because everything, and I again say that knowledge is always inside out, it's not outside in. So when you're working and writing, you're enforcing, we're working on all our senses. You have an intent, you write it down, and then you work on it. So the way today's word, the word of the year for the Webster dictionary is manifest. What is manifest? Intent, attention, manifestation. You have your intent, you put attention to it, you work on that, and you will manifest it.
So it's all about manifestation and driving through the right path. So Nitika, we'll just touch on the surface of your personal life. You married young, you started a family young, you raised very smart kids and a husband when you were still very young.
Yeah.
Did your studies, you become a specialist. All this while you were probably in the age when you should have been partying and, having fun and you're a very attractive girl and, shaking a leg here and there, all this kind of life. So what is your happiness quotient now? Was that brought you happiness and gives you this look? Or did you go into spirituality because you missed out all that?
Not at all. I don't think I missed out anything in life. In fact, I was seeing the man of my dreams at age 16 and we've been together since. And thankfully for us, we've both grown together. I feel that's been my biggest blessing. We've partied, we've done everything together. So we've been joined at the hips and we've done everything together. We've raised 2 boys. I think the best thing you can, and I know that from you, you've said it so often, best thing you can give your children is a great bond between the 2 parents.
Absolutely. They follow you.
Absolutely.
Your mirror image.
You grow to secure beings at home. There's nothing more secure than having parents who love each other. That's it. So I've been blessed that I found the right person early in life, and I don't think I've missed anything or there's any lack of happiness. I don't have any of those regrets. No.
I'm very happy to hear that because this is what our youngsters, our Gen Z needs to know, that you can balance a fantastic career, balance your family, bring love, bring bonding together, not just for you and your partner, but for your kids, your family, the extended family, everybody gets thrown into it together. So this is something that is so badly missing, that, like you use the word anchorage. The kids today are losing their anchorage, not just about our tradition and our dharma and whatever else, but even they are losing their parents behind. They're leaving their parents behind. I was traumatized as a kid.
They blame the parents for everything.
Yeah. Not realizing that, did your parents slap you hard? Why? You must have been a naughty child and you needed that. Well, today we don't believe in corporal punishment, but there was a time when parents did that. Maybe that parents did that to him. So the outcome is that the parents did the best that they in their heads did, unless they were psycho parents. The kid had to be corrected. Did you correct yourselves? Did the child correct themselves? So this is what I feel our conversation, the takeaway for today's generation is your fantastic work-life balance. Your fantastic way that you're balancing 2 careers. I hope you're going to write more books. And third, how much grounding and solid upbringing you've given to your children, and like the word you use is love. Your love sounds weighted, heavy, solid. Not that frivolous, I love you, gone next afternoon here. Bye. So this is something that our youngsters need to know. Love is here. Love is this. You take love, you give love so freely. I've known you for some time and I know you're a giver. And I believe.
Look, I would just say that, again, very poignantly asked question by so many people, what's the purpose of life? And what can we do to know our purpose? How do we know our purpose of life? The purpose of life, I feel, is to just get to know yourself. That's the journey. The journey.
Scary, man. If I get to know myself and I find myself to be a witch, oh, you don't know us.
See, again, you're judging. When you can be in sync with yourselves, in love with yourselves, that's where self-love begins. It's such a selfless thing. Self-love is not being selfish. It's again a word which has been distorted. So know yourself, completely attune yourself to your goods, bads, positives, negative. Learn, accept who you are, and then begin to change the things that are bothering you about yourself. We are our best critic if we look within. And then when that self-love emerges, you're just so full of love that only a person who loves themselves can love someone else. I do not, there's two words that Gen Z and the newer generation talks about is I have no time for a relationship. What? I mean, I think they just go so well together. How
They'll
can you?
get dehydrated in no time.
I know.
Absolutely. They'll turn into kishmir.
What's the point of being most successful person at the top with no one to share it with?
Absolutely.
That's one. The other thing is we complete each other. No, how can a box fit into a circle? So you have to be a complete being to merge with another complete being. Two incomplete beings will always have problems. So first spend time getting to know yourself, grow yourself, love yourself so that other people want to love you too. Be lovable enough. And if you don't like spending time with yourself, how do you expect others to spend
I
time?
like tell my children, if you value yourself as Chavanni, the world will look at you as Chavanni. If you value yourself as $100 bill, they'll treat you like one.
Absolutely.
So now I think I need to have a longer and bigger conversation on this aspect of looking into yourself, because I've known for years, decades, that there are some yogis, there are some people who have completely given up their youth, their life, their plans for future, everything, and trudged up the Himalayas to look for who am I? What is life? Who is God? Looking for God. It's never made sense to me that संसार से भागे फिरते हो तुम भगवान को कैसे पाओगे? It's a very beautiful song, and these are the words of it. So I feel people who have renounced their earthly duties to find who am I, find God. I'm not being an atheist, or I'm not passing any adverse comment on. And these people are बहुत पहुंचे हुए लोग जो renounce करके life अपना go in search of who am I. Are you planning on doing that? Because you told me 3 times you have to find yourself. You have to find your inner self.
So the word here is to be in this universe, be a part of it, and yet not be taken in by it.
Okay.
It's
Introspection.
It's not for everyone. See, कभी भी कोई भी चीज अपने मन के खिलाफ नहीं करो. If you're giving up something and then you're feeling bad about giving it up,
No point.
then no point doing it. If you feel remorse or regret for it, no point doing it. Elevate your being to such a level that when these things will automatically fall off. I'm talking of smaller things. Elevate your level of desire so much, because in the end, everything that pushes us ahead is a desire for more name, for more fame, more this, more that. Our desires are what vasanas, our maya, this mayavi. This whole life is an illusion and maya. So to be able to detach yourself from that and yet not lose focus, that I use this phrase again and again, that spirituality is no gateway to poverty. Okay, people feel that if you are spiritual, सबको छोड़ छाड़ के झोला लगा के चले जाओ. No. In fact, raise yourself to such a level that you're an automatic magnet. You're drawing in things. Everybody is drawn towards you. Then you're drawing in the right things. And this is so linked in science. I'm not talking mumbo jumbo that doesn't have scientific backing. Today, we have books and books on molecules have emotions.
Oh, wow.
How cellular healing can happen at every level, and how energy, frequency, vibration. He is in every way. Sound therapy, chanting Om.
Therapy started to remove tumors
Absolutely.
from liver.
From everywhere, doc. I was talking to our younger dentists that there is a frequency that when you play it in the clinic, you may be doing your root canal, but those nerves are healing by themselves with that frequency. And today, with the aid of technology, if we can use robos for science, why cannot we borrow into the frequency to treat our patients? So, sound healing works, energy healing works, and of course, our intent, our willingness, and our belief that this will happen will make it work. So, it's written in science. I'm talking scientifically backed things. We've seen people recover from a whole lot of things just by changing the internal and environment.
Nitika, I feel halfway enlightened talking to you. This is great. So good. What's the topic for your new book, your next book? Have you started?
So, Antim is actually a trilogy. The first part, Antim the Last Avatar, was about the twins and them meeting the immortals and fighting just the tip of their nemesis. Part 2 is called Antimony. Antimony is actually a very volatile element. It has to be kept tightly closed in a glass bottle because when it's exposed to oxygen and air, it can blast off anything. So Antimony is about that. The two siblings going opposite ways and the immortals having to take sides with these, Rudra and Tarini. And part 3 is going to be Intergalactic Universe.
Is it going to be based on supernatural or paranormal?
Absolutely.
That should be interesting. And I hope your book turn into films.
Yeah.
So it's easy for the kids also to understand what you're saying. Like I told you, I'm only halfway enlightened. And I hope to read all your other books. And I'm going to revisit your book now and read it again from your perspective, because when I was reading it, I did get a little lost in the story
Lots of characters.
Yeah, the story that you created. But it took me a while and I found my ground and then read on. So I'm looking forward to more books from you. And
thank you.
Write something on the spirituality thing and who am I? How do we get there? Yeah.
I am actually working on a non-fiction book on well-being, on holistic well-being. And I have that almost ready. So yeah, actually writing non-fiction I think is a lot easier than writing fiction, especially if you're writing what you believe in. There's no storytelling there. You're just writing on what you believe in and what you've seen work. So yeah, I'm writing for
brand new kids, brand new people who want to write books, who want to write stories and be heard, seen, known. What advice would you give about how do you find a publisher to get back? Is it like a guru that when you're ready, he walks in? The book is ready, a publisher walk in? How does that happen? Just for my audience who want...
And now you hit upon the toughest thing is finding a publisher. That is the toughest journey. And like I said, when you're writing, it's a very intrinsic process. You spend time with yourself. You don't want to meet outsiders. You don't want to do anything. But that same person, that intrinsic person has to become extrinsic. You have to become someone who's out there, meet people. You have to network and just hope that you find the right publisher. And today,
you take your book around?
You take your manuscript around. You take
it gets plagiarized? Somebody who knows the publisher, right?
So today we do have, the right to property, intellectual property. So you first thing, once you finish your manuscript, the first thing is get yourself a good lawyer who is dealing with IP, intellectual property, and get it absolutely put in your name.
Right law.
Yeah. And today we send everything via emails. So that makes it, you have backups to see that this was sent by you to them. But yes, having said that, you've trenched upon something that I did face, that I was looking at publishers and approached a literary agent. And sometime later, I was And he had got back to me that, no, I haven't found any publisher. I was browsing through one of the books at Crossword a year or two later, and paragraph of my book was written in that book. And I was like, yeah, I was totally shocked. And it was this agent had turned publisher and had that. So these things do happen. You have to be careful.
With scripts. You take your scripts to people, and next thing you know, the film is already made and ready, and the script is in the dustbin.
Yeah. So at that point, I was very upset. I called up my lawyer and I called up my advisor and I said, what do we do? Should we put in a case? And he said, don't drive negative energies for the book. You rewrite that paragraph. You just work on the positives. Don't work on the negative energies. You want to get into this, then you'll get lost in that. You're a creator. Create again. Move that. And let's do that. So yeah, we went ahead looking at it in a positive way. Yeah, but it's a very valid point that people do begin to be very secure who you're handing your things over to. And if you have a direct contact with a publisher, great. Today, there are great ways of self-publishing also. I know a few friends who've self-published their books, but it's a tough thing, How do you market it? How do you distribute it?
Your book is sitting on the shelves of leading bookstores. I think I've seen
it sold out on Amazon America, by the way.
Okay, yeah. Congratulations, wonderful.
Thank you.
So it's really actually gone global and it's doing so good. So is there a tactics that you followed, or you were just lucky, or did your publisher really go all out marketing?
No, I think you believe and trust in your publisher once you find it, and then like everything in life, water finds its own level. Your book reaches where it's destined to reach. Your piece of art reaches where it's destined to reach. I think you put in all your effort, you put your right work into it, and then leave it to the universe. It'll find its own place.
It's so easy. I know a couple of girls who have written some good books on their choice of subject. They just can't find a publisher. So shall I tell them, leave it to the universe? You've done a good job. No, give me some meat to give them.
No, network. Meet people. Talk about your book without divulging too much about it also. Meet people, go out. In fact, everything is out there, the publishing houses, go meet them. I waited for more than a year to hear back from one of the most well-known publishing houses. And in that year, I felt that since I've shared it with this publishing house, I did not share my book with anybody else because I thought that was a breach of trust. Again, I've shared it with them. I will not. But I did not receive any revert from them. And then finally, when I did, that's when I said, okay, one door closed, another will open. So dejection comes a lot. One is rejected when you go out. Not everybody is going to pick up. You have to stay strong. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product and then continue. So it took me a couple of years to find the right publisher, but we did.
So out there, people, you can write. You have stories in your head. You want to share that. Neetika's adventure or Neetika's journey into becoming an author from a scientist. Seems she's made it so simple. Her book is not as simple as she made it, but it gives you hope. It gives you inspiration. And I hope you people get where you want to in writing. Writing is, like she said, not just catharsis. It's an overflow of your own being, your own emotions. And it was wonderful talking to you, Neetika.
Thank you, Ra. Hope you love talking to you always. And
Yeah. Thank you.